What's up, everybody? This is Bread and Butter, serving up the basics the average Hearthstone player needs for improvement. I am Doc McButt, and we have a special guest today. Chalker, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to chatting with some people like you guys today. So I'm doing awesome.
Wonderful. Tito, how about you?
I'm doing I can talk hard English words easy. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking, Doc. All right, so why don't we set the table? What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
He likes bread and butter. He likes toast in town.
So, Chalker, give us like the elevator pitch on who you are.
Sure. So my name is Matt Chalker, and I am streaming Marvel Snap, and I am the host of Oops All Duels, the only, as far as I'm aware, podcast that is dedicated to the Duels mode in Hearthstone, along with my co-host Agent Croak, and that's who I am.
You're not the only podcast that has duels. You are the one that mains it, but
Yeah.
Squelch is almost duels adjacent.
Yeah. I will totally acknowledge that there are other podcasts out there that do discuss duels. We do not own the entire rights to producing words about that mode. Absolutely, but we are the only one that is focused exclusively on duels.
No, 100%.
To the best of my knowledge.
I'm just giving you a little grief. Absolutely no.
Yeah, okay.
As far as I could find, you were the only ones. That's why you're here.
There we go.
So, what have you been up to recently, like in your personal life, or just anything you'd like to share?
It's been tough, man. Actually, quite frankly, because the Marvel Snap global launch was 2 weeks ago, right? Or a week and a half ago, whatever. And unfortunately, my daughter brought home her first ever preschool bug, and it went through the whole house. And so we've been watching her, and so my content creation schedule window, I made a whole calendar. I was going to get this out this day, I was going to do this that day. You may even hear it in my voice still. My nose is still a little congested. It all just flew out the window. So I felt like I wasted the right perfect time of the launch. But you got to tell yourself, this is the way that life is, and this is the season of life you're in, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. So it was a little tough, especially launch day specifically. I was really, really bummed out I wasn't able to do a big long stream or anything. But yeah, again, that's life. We do what we got to do for our family and our kids.
That is true. Life comes first. Yeah. Tito, what have you been up to?
Been a busy. I cannot talk tonight. I don't know what the problem is. It's been a busy work week, so that's taken up a lot of time, a little extra time. We did the trick-or-treating at the outlets near my house this afternoon with my grandson and my son, and my grandson was Mickey Mouse that my son was able to wear. They're only a couple years difference in age, so it's kind of funny. And my son was Mario, and he had this Mario costume where it has a blower on it, and it inflates up the Yoshi, so it looks like he's riding Yoshi. And
that's sweet.
It's sweet, but it was even sweeter because as he was walking, the Yoshi head starts bobbing around, and if you look behind, the tail's wagging. So it was fun. I'm hoping he gets to wear it in his parade on Monday for school, but I'm not sure if they're going to let him have something that blows up. So we have a backup costume. So he's either going to be Mario with Yoshi, or he'll be Luigi. So it's themed.
Nice.
How about yourself, Doc? What have you been up to?
I've been stressing about finding a place to live, finding a new place to live, moving into the new place, and I'm almost done. After we record tonight, I'm gonna pack up the rest of my stuff and move it over to my new apartment. So it's just been moving into a new place, building my new chair, and just stressing about trying to get out of this place as soon as I can.
You've had that chair for a while sitting in a box, haven't you?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Oh, that does remind us. There will be no episode next week, as our editor and co-host, Doc McButt, will not have that wonderful thing called the internet.
Yeah, internet will get set up on the 8th. So regular scheduled programming should happen after that.
Great guest lined up for that. How about some appetizers, Doc? What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
No, Homer, don't fill up on bread.
So Chalker, what have you been doing in the video game sphere recently?
Yeah, so for specifically in Hearthstone, I'll talk about my Duels experience. I almost exclusively play Duels. I did play Battlegrounds for a while, after launch, but it didn't match with our lifestyle, and so I really dove into it. And so I've been polishing my Elise Priest Druid Death Rattle Quest deck with a mill finish on the end. You get that shellfish down, and you get some Cold Light Oracles down, and you start making all their cards go poof, poof, poof. Play a due process. It is very satisfying and fun. So that I've been doing slight tweaks and slight iterations. It's my masterpiece that is trash and is totally toxic to play against, but is totally enjoyable to play myself. So the only other Hearthstone I've played, honestly, is Standard, and I've had some fun playing some big spell mage down in bronze with my my 2-star booster or whatever it's called. So I've been having fun with that, but really it's all about the duels.
Can you
for me.
say that name of that deck again?
Yeah, sure. My Elise Priest Druid Death Rattle Quest deck with a mill finisher.
That sounds like not fun to play against.
That sounds like word
But that's the
salad.
thing with duels, right? The thing, the thing with duels, right, is we'll get to it in a little bit, but it's the monster truck rally of Hearthstone. But sometimes you are the monster truck running things over. Sometimes the monster truck runs you over. Sometimes you're those cars getting crushed. In this deck, I've never taken it to 12 windows. I've only ever made it to like 7 or 8, but I have a blast with it, and that's what I want to deliver on with duels. So, sorry
Nice.
to derail it. Yeah.
Oh, you're good. You're
That's
good.
what this section's all about. It actually, I was just gonna say that whatever you said for the name of that deck, it sounds like something a chef would play. It had with a little shellfish, a nice little finish there, maybe a little mill on the side. I like it. I've been playing. I've been streaming when I can. I've been playing on average, 50% when I'm out there. I'm winning, losing, whatever. My rank has dropped to about 7K. I have an interesting thought on that, which I'll bring up at the end. But that's just variance because my MMR is technically probably around 10K or whatever it is. So I'm water finds this level, and I'm working on fixing that level. But overall, I'm having fun. It's been interesting. I finally get the 5K on Battlegrounds, so I might actually win our monthly bet. We're really close, Doc.
This is the closest it's been in a long time.
Yeah, because I won the first one because we were both pretty much even, and then you got yourself some time to play some Battlegrounds, and you got way ahead of me. It's taken a while for me to catch up, but I spent some time, and I said, you know what, I'm going to just... I had one streak where I had, I was ready to go to bed early, and I just sat there, and I said, I have to try to catch Doc, so I'm going to play until I lose. And I won, 5 games in a row. And I had to stop on the win streak because I was tired. I had to go to bed, and I had meant to go to bed 2 hours before that. But when you're winning, it's hard to put that down. You just want to keep on rolling.
Yeah.
So how about you, Doc?
And that's why I don't play Battlegrounds anymore.
That's fair. How about yourself, Doc? What have you been playing?
So I actually, for this episode, because I could not tell you the last time I played Duels, it was before the changes when you didn't have to unlock the rewards. I know that much.
Oh, okay. Like at least 6 months at least.
Yes. So I've done 2 Duels runs. First one, I went 1 and 3. And then I forget what kind of deck. Oh, I made a dude paladin. And then the second one I did Beast Hunter with a brand. So it was Beast Hunter Frenzy because it was Warrior Hunter. That was fun. I had the Sunscale Raptor, right? The one that Frenzy shuffles a copy of it with a +2/+1 in your deck. So I had that. Yeah. I had the Mimic Mask that makes you target a minion, makes all the minions in your hand the copy of that minion.
Mm-hmm.
And I had
Mask of Mimicry.
Yes. And I had the Brand's enormous egg to get multiple King Crushes off of it.
Yeah, your treasure, your active treasure, your signature treasure was the 0/3 card that every time it takes damage, it pops off King Crush. And so if you're sitting there proccing it with little 1 damages, if you get a whirlwind effect, you get 3 of them in a turn, right? Did you ever get that to happen?
I didn't get 3, but I did play Hydrolodon 4 turns in a row.
Ooh.
Which that was really dumb. It was a lot of fun. It was just casual, so now my MMR in casual is like 1200 because it was literally 0. I have a total of like 25 duels wins. In ranked, I'm plat 5, and I've been playing Curse Implock and just Big Beast Hunter, and I'm about 5100 or so in BGs. And I finished the BGs Tavern Pass today.
Fantastic. I want to bring you back to the moments where Doc was describing the cards he was playing in Duels, because we obviously this is an audio only format, so this is kind of a visual goof, but I have no idea what Doc was saying, and Chalker is just over here nodding like yep. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yep. So if you are, dear listener, also wondering what the heck they're talking about, there's a learning curve here, and that's what we're here to talk about. So don't panic because I have no idea what Doc said either, but Chalker did, and that's positive.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
So sorry to get back to that deck really quick because it was super fun. I also had the 3 mana 3/3 weapon that it silences whatever minion you attack with it.
Yeah, the Exorciser.
Yeah. Oh, it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I think my doctor has said I need that. So,
Silenced. Yeah, absolutely. The art on that thing is sick too. It looks like it's like a chain with like a wolf's head on the end of it. It's like flaming. It looks like something like Ghost Rider would have if he was like in Game of Thrones or something. It's
Yes.
awesome.
So, Chalker, since we have you here, we have a couple questions for you. Our first question is, what's your history with video games and Hearthstone?
Sure. So I've played video games ever since I was a little kid. Started off with my older siblings' original NES. I remember getting my Nintendo 64 when I was 12 years old at Christmas or whatever it was, and so on and so forth. I played Blizzard games once I switched over to PC in probably middle school. Warcraft 2, StarCraft, Warcraft 3, same story as everyone. It changed a little bit in college. Became a very social butterfly with my little group of friends throughout college, and we literally played, I want to say, 12,000 hours of Super Smash Brothers Melee cumulatively over 5 years. We wore out several GameCubes, and so that's where like my social aspect came from. But at the same time, I played card games back when I was a little kid with my brother. I didn't really always understand them. I remember like when I was like in middle school, I didn't get Magic the Gathering particularly well, but we enjoyed the art. We liked playing them with also the Star Wars cards. And I collected the X-Men cards back, like the Fleer set back in the mid '90s. We collected those extensively. So once Blizzard announced Hearthstone, I was very excited about it. I didn't get on board right away throughout the beta. It was a different time in my life. I was focused on different things and just didn't have time for starting a new game like that. But I did come in during Whispers of the Old Gods, and my first ever golden legendary was Yasharaj, and I remember it vividly, and I still use that. And that's very, very specific for my sort of personality in the gaming world. I've hit legend one time in standard. I don't like that type of play. I don't really enjoy the long grinding competitive aspect of it. I enjoy the silly bombastic thing. I am the prototypical Timmy that likes to see a big card do big fun things. And Yasharaj is a great example of that, and that hooked me into Hearthstone pretty explicitly. And I kind of hinted. I'm reading ahead on the notes there. That kind of hints out why Duels, which you're going to ask me in a second. Which I'll let you ask. I'm sorry for.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. So, why is Duels your favorite mode?
Because I'm a Timmy. Because I love it, like funny, crazy stuff, right? So it's the monster truck rally of Hearthstone. It's the spot where wild, crazy things happen. You have a card like Mask of Mimicry, which is a treasure. It's you build your deck as you go through the mode, and you get more and more powerful things, and you get insane combos to pull off. And so they have to throw in a lot of insane counters. Everything is just, the ante's constantly raising in Duels, which means you get to do crazy stuff or crazy stuff happens against you. And that Mask of Mimicry card is I can't remember if it's a 2 or a 3 mana spell that says minions in your hand choose a minion, minions in your hand become copies of that. So you can all of a sudden get, 8 or 9 Denathriuses very quickly if you have the setup correctly, or whatever you want. You can copy a million of them. There's a bunch of uses.
Okay,
for that.
first off,
And it's
multiple
so much fun.
Denathriuses are called Denathri.
Yeah, Denathri. Oh shit!
And also,
Dang it!
you keep referencing monster truck rallies. Why don't you have a name like Gravedigger?
Gravedigger. Oh, that would be a sweet name. The reason is I don't feel that I was personally creative enough, and so I've used the same name for ever. It was assigned to me a very long time ago, and it's the same across all platforms. I'm sure that's not great for doxing standards, but it's also who I am, and I am very authentically myself at all times. I
What do
insist
you
upon
mean?
that,
What do you mean
and
assigned to
so
yourself? Was that your real name, Chalker? Oh, fair enough.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. I honestly like. I mean, I don't. This may or may not be useful to include in the audio part of it. But quite genuinely, I see like a lot of higher end professional people out there, like that are actual game devs, and like Kibler or other people of that sort of stature using their real names. And I understand that came from their previous lives and how they got to that point, right? Like they were competitive or it's their professional experience. But I am coming into this sort of content creation world as I have a background, I have a history. I am a real person that is very different than this content creation thing, but I also fell off the face of the planet for 2.5 years. And so I just I don't want to lose that old sight of me, I guess. And we were exceptionally isolated for the past 2.5 years with my wife and the new baby. I don't know how to split myself, and so I'm very focused. I am me. I am me.
And this is a little.
Take
This is
that
a
or leave
little
it.
aside,
Yeah.
kind of a tangent, but
Yeah.
I've always, so obviously my name's not Tito Santana. I'm not a famous wrestler from the 80s, but it was a gamer name that I got a long time ago. But I thought during COVID, when COVID hit in 2000, I thought that was going to be the time for esports to take off. But I think one reason why and this is just, there's no facts behind this is just my feelings. But I think that esports doesn't take off partly because if someone catches a round of League of Legends on ESPN 8 when they're talking about Monkstabber 73 is taking the core, I think that kind of delegitimizes the event for some people where it's not their real name. Like you can have nicknames, like you can be John Monkstabber Johnson. But
Sure.
I mean, there was Ocho Cinco.
Yeah, Chad. I mean,
And
Yeah, but everyone knew who he was. Like, he
wasn't Chad
I agree.
Ochocinco when he entered the league. He was Chad Johnson. He picked up Chad Ochocinco when he had the millions in his pocket, and he could be silly. Same thing with Meta Peace Earth.
Meta World Peace.
So
Meta World Peace.
Yeah, I'm not saying I wasn't trying to like invalidate your name or anything. That was just an example that popped into my head. I promise.
Like everybody knows Ridiculous Hat in our sphere, right? But if you're trying to express like, hey, I really respect this person, Ridiculous Hat, to somebody that doesn't know him through this card world or isn't involved in Twitter and understands how gamings work, that's gonna suck. If my parents come up to visit me for Thanksgiving and I'm like, yeah, I've spent some time with the video games I got coached by this guy, Ridiculous Hat, they're gonna look at me like I have 3 heads. I think that's always been kind of a barrier for esports to grow further. But anyway, that was
Sorry,
go ahead, Doc.
Oh, I was I was going to try to make a very awful segue, which has now made an awkward segue. But Chalker, so you're a podcaster, and your co-host is on the opposite side of the world from you.
Literally 12 hours away from me, or 12 hours. Literally, if you drilled a hole through the ground, you might get to it. Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, the way it worked is that early COVID and during most of my wife's pregnancy, I was playing a lot of Battlegrounds. And that was fine for our life. We were at home. I could sit there and focus on my phone for 20 minutes and then like literally shut down at some intermediary point for 30, 40 seconds while I do my moves and then go be back and being present. But that doesn't work when you have a toddler. So I switched over to a mode where I could like more predictably know like I could pick it up or put it down. And that's where Duels came in. And so I started playing quite a lot of Duels. I started looking for content out there. And I know Regis is out there. He's putting some stuff out and it's fun. I love podcasts. And I know Team America was doing a bunch of stuff. And I found Agent Croak was doing some stuff. Um, and they were basically the only people that I found on YouTube whatsoever. And I wanted the mode to grow because I was having such a fun time with it, having, occupying as much of my video game time as anything else on this one thing. And I was like, you know what? I gotta be social. I gotta talk to someone. I gotta see what's going on. And I thought that Croak might be the best shot. I thought he would be the one that would want to talk to me. So I cold emailed him. I straight up wrote a little email out of nowhere and sent it off to him. I recorded a little video and I said, "Hey man, do you have any interest?" He seemed the most the least serious about it. And I mean, obviously, like Regis has got his own thing. He's not looking to build out a new thing. So he was the one most dedicated to Duels at the time, and he said, "Yeah, sure, let's do a podcast." So we started doing it. And we didn't ask anyone for permission or anything. We just started recording one day. And the real trick has been honestly to not make it too serious. I'm not like trying to make money off of it or anything. I'm not trying to get like a huge following. So I'm not like following the stats too closely. And I'm not like being like real hardcore about us making every week. So some weeks we don't get things out. And that's the other thing with Duels in general is that there aren't there is not the financial incentive to Blizzard to support it in the same way that there is for other modes. I do not believe there is quite as many participants in it, so there's not as much. There's not as many balance changes. There's not as much engineering and tech work going on it. There's not as much dev support, and so things don't change in Duels lately, and so we don't have to update anything on podcasts. So we do it when we need to. Right now it's bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks, but it has been more or less infrequent. And if his kid broke his leg in the middle of July, and we had to cancel a couple, like really badly, quite badly actually. And they were at the hospital. We had to cancel 2 weeks of shows. That's the way life goes. Just move on. So yeah.
So are there any projects you're working on or anything you haven't down the pipeline?
Yeah, well, I mean, within the Hearthstone Duels world, specifically within Oops All Duels, we're trying to build out some excitement in the mode, get some more people interested in it because I think they recognize and I recognize there is a significant barrier to entry, as Doc was kind of joking about earlier. These cards, you don't know what they are. They're wild, they're wacky. You can go in there and get an 0-3 run very easily and be totally disillusioned with it and run away from it. So it isn't the most popular mode, and I want more people to go in and have fun and have a silly time with it. So within Oops All Duels, we have the Race to 12, the Oops All Duels Race to 12, where about once a month, Agent Croak and I live on stream while we're recording our podcast, we'll draft an off-meta deck. We will create, a starter deck of 12 cards and put it out there. And the first person anywhere in the world, except for in China, because I can't friend you and buy you packs there, the first person anywhere in the world that gets a verified 12-win run with that deck gets 10 free packs. We're putting a bounty out to see if we can make some silliness happen out there. And the current one, there's a current run going on right now. And the highest win total I've seen on this one is 8 wins. It is an Evolve Totem Shaman that is out there. We can talk about that and pimp that out later on for sure. So that's the biggest project that we're, I guess, working on or trying to make sure that the world is
Does it
aware
have
of.
to be in ranked? Because I know you only offered certain.
It doesn't. It does not have to be in ranked. We prefer just like as a chivalrous agreement for the first few days for you to try it only in heroic or casual. If someone comes out there and like I don't want to accidentally have drafted the most busted deck of any all time, and it's just the first person that hits the go button in heroic. We want there to be a shakeup of the meta. We want there to be some challenge to this. Um, so we don't want someone to go on casual and just keep on retiring the runs uh, constantly until they nail the perfect treasure, and then 2 hours later submit, okay, we got it, but based upon 40 runs, and we got this ultra rare tier 2 passive treasure to make it happen.
Ha-
So I
has
yeah.
your contest yielded any meta decks?
No, we're on our second cycle of it. We're just trying it out. We're making it work, and we haven't gotten full results. We did get the last round. We did get someone who got 12 wins. A gentleman from Germany, Flabachi, and he came on our podcast afterwards and talked about the experience and helped us draft the next deck. So it was really a good time. It
That's
was a lot of fun.
fantastic.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of heroes and duels. Who is your favorite and why?
Yeah, so my favorite is gotta be a Lucia, Mindrender, the priest. And the reason that she is my favorite duels hero is that she is very different than priest is in standard and wild and in regular traditional constructed, right? So in duels, you've got your three different hero powers that you can start with, and the one that is most commonly used with Elucia, um, excuse me, is it called Mind Render? I actually honestly can't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
remember
that's right.
what it is, but it Mind Render, okay. And it's a passive hero power that reads every time you play a spell, deal 1 damage to the opposing hero. And infamously, I like calling that Ping Priest, but it's Shadow Priest, right? And it's a Shadow Priest by default, and it plays totally different than you might expect Priest to play in Standard or Wild, and it really enables you to use the cards that were printed for those other modes in a vastly different way. And that's really, 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 really the best part of Duels, in my opinion, is that you get to experiment with known variables in wild and wacky and in new ways every single time you play a run.
Awesome. So our next question, Diablo was pretty controversial when he was on the scene. Did you like him?
Yeah, I liked him. Sure, he was fun. It was new. It was different. It was that's again my I want there to be 50 characters in Duels. I want there to be as many different options for us to play and to choose. And so sure, I totally enjoyed him. I wish that they
Oh,
still there? What just
um,
happened?
okay, he's back.
Hello?
Well, welcome to
Yeah,
this week.
we got you now.
Welcome
Welcome
back to
back.
this week's editing challenge for Doc McButt.
Holy crap. I'm sorry.
No,
Can you
you're
see
good.
me?
We can't
Oh,
see you.
man.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
there I am. I all of a sudden Discord just like disappeared. I didn't hit any buttons. I don't know if like a ghost pushed a mouse walked across, a gecko walked across the keyboard or something. I genuinely don't know. Discord, the whole
To
thing
be
just closed all of
fair,
a
we
sudden
were
on me.
talking
I'm
about
sorry.
Diablo.
Yep,
There you go.
that's what it was.
Do you think
Devil.
Diablo would have been better received if the unlocks were all unlocked like they are now?
Yeah, I do. I do think that very much so. So the paywalling of Duels, I think, really hurt it for the first year of its existence, or however long, 18 months, however long it took them to remove those. Um, Simply because some of the other hero powers are so much more powerful and so much better than the ones that you start off with. And if you have a bad taste in your mouth on your first few runs through the mode, you're not going to want to come back to it and tap the well again. And the unlocks for Diablo were very challenging and time consuming. And it, I got there pretty quickly. I think it took Croak like 3 weeks to get there, and he's like an actual streamer of this mode. So that's not great for a mode if you can't play with the shiny
Yeah.
toys for like a month. but
So,
they fixed that.
what is something that you think our listeners would be surprised to learn about you? And it can be as serious or as non-serious as you would like.
I don't know. Surprised to learn about me? I'm a very surprising person with a lot of interesting stuff. I'm happy to answer questions, but generating a thing that I find it difficult to put my brain in other people's heads. I have, okay, how about this? A surprising thing. I have my older dog is named Yoshimi. Yoshimi. She is a Shiba Inu Corgi, and she does battle pink robots, and she hates children and basketballs and joy, and she is basically a police dog just walking around the yard all the time. She's the best watchdog on the planet, loves me, hates everyone else, but her name's Yoshimi, and she does hate pink robots. That's pretty good.
That is pretty good. What was the pink robot?
Oh, it's a song by the Flaming Lips. So it's name there's a song called Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robot, or Yoshimi.
I have heard of the Flaming Lips before, but I can't
Yeah.
say that I've actually listened to anything. But that's
Yeah,
cool.
well,
I'll have to check them out.
Look it up. It's a good song. Listen to the whole album. It's real good.
Also, well, another surprising thing is you've worked with film before, right? We learned that in the Discord.
Well, that wasn't actually film. Yeah, we were talking about that. Just a guy was joking about his editing taking forever because he's sitting there using a manual razor, right? No, I got a buddy who's a professor. I don't know how much time we got here. This is gonna derail the conversation pretty hard. But I've done a lot of film restoration work. I haven't done a lot of film restoration work. I have a background in art history and material science engineering. And I have a friend who is a professor of radioglaciology, which means they fly over glaciers and point a radar down at the ice, and they measure the ice sheet thickness by the way that the thing bounces back. They have been doing this since the 1960s, and when they were in the 60s, they used to literally point a 35 millimeter camera at an oscilloscope effectively. I mean, it was machined and it was put together, but that was basically what it was. It was a camera pointing at a 35 millimeter camera pointing at an oscilloscope, and they would put this radar data, these little squiggly lines, on these old things, and that was the measurement of the ice sheet thickness in Greenland and Antarctica in the 60s. And my buddy said, okay, now that I'm a professor, they want me to produce some data. They want me to do some comparative stuff. Let's get a professional Hollywood grade film scanner. Let's go to these archives and let's scan the actual original radar data so that then we can remeasure it and we can measure exactly how much ice thickness has gone down in that 60 years. We can extend the amount of time because they've been measuring it digitally since like the 80s, and so we have like precisely that late. But he extended the historical record by about 20 years, and I was used as the justification for going into the archive because I had those things, and I posted a picture of it on the Discord channel, and that's the story of why that came about.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I really like that. And so you've definitely touched on this.
Yeah.
Well, do you feel like Duels gets enough attention from Team 5?
So anytime any of these conversations start going into is Team 5 doing the right thing, my default answer is I don't know. Can we swear on this podcast, or are we not doing that?
I'll allow it.
Okay. I don't know shit about business. I am not an engineer. I am not a manager. I don't own stock in Blizzard or Microsoft. I don't know anything about what corporate priorities are or are not. Of course, I would love there to be a dedicated team of 200 people developing new Duels content and making the perfect Hearthstone roguelite. I would love nothing more than that. But like from what I understand, that the code is held together by scotch tape and bubble gum and like hopes and prayers. And Duels is like the wacky mode that breaks everything. Sounds like it's probably pretty hard to maintain, I would guess. But I don't know. Again, I am not a software engineer. I don't know what the deal is. I know what my ideal cadence would be for updates. I know exactly what that would be. But sure, I would love more support. but I love the stuff that we get, and I think that we had the best dev on the team for a long time. He recently left, but Atesh Bayrakalog, I think I'm pronouncing his last name right, at Tabarayalak, at Tabayarok on Twitter, something like that. He was awesome. He was so fun. He was so enthusiastic and chill, and always down to talk with the Duels fans. So I missed that. He moved on to the new Blizzard unannounced game a couple months ago.
Yeah. So your podcast name is Oops All Duels.
Yes.
Why? Other than the obvious that it's about duels.
Oh yeah. So and the misspelling too is part of it, right? So the double O. In Duels there are these things that are called treasures, and we can talk about that at some point. But they're cards that are passive and auras that dramatically change the way the entire game plays. And one of the treasures that is currently not in rotation, but was originally in at the very beginning of things, is Oops All Spells, which read that destroy all at the start of the game, destroy all non-spell cards in your deck. Spells cost 2 less. You have permanent spell damage +1 or something like that. So the idea was you would just be able to, go to town with that. And so we named it Oops All Duels based off of that. And the very first iteration of that card, there was a typo with that extra O in it. And at the time that I commissioned the logo and everything, that typo was still in there. That's why there are 3 O's in the name. And then, I don't know, 4 months later, 3 months later, someone fixed it. And now the card reads with 2 O's, OOPS, and they now it's not even a card in the entire rotation at all. You can't even see it, but that's where it came from.
Okay. What would be like the one change you would want to make in duels if you could?
So the one change that I would definitely make in Duels is committing to a update cycle that involved on a 1 month, 3 week to 1 month basis, nerfing the 3 most powerful tier 2 passive treasures while buffing the bottom performing 3 tier 2 passive treasures. That's what I would do.
Awesome. So you mentioned earlier at the top of the show that you wanted to do some Marvel Snap content.
Oh yeah.
Is that something you're going to be focusing more energy into?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. My plan was, to coincide with the launch, put it out there and keep growing it. But, having had this experience of the past 2 weeks with the baby and doing personal reflection on what is possible and is not possible, I'm going to continue doing Snap stuff. I love the history stuff. I've been putting a lot of YouTube videos out about like who these characters are, where they came from. A lot of them, as you are playing, I'm sure you are recognizing people, but you also are probably being introduced to new characters. I would guess I was for a lot of them. I don't know if you both are playing Snap or not. But
I think you know the answer to that.
Okay. So yeah, so you're finding out all these people like who else Kazar, who's this guy, who's that guy, and so I've been trying to put out some YouTube videos explaining where they came from, what their powers are, what their backstories are, and how it relates to their Snap cards. But that actually takes quite a bit of effort to do that research. It's like a really hardcore book report, and we'll keep on putting them out, and I'll keep on doing it. But I don't know if I'll add in some duels here or there as well. But yeah, Snap's nice and easy because it's so short. I love how tight it is and how predictable it is. I like the back catalog of content. I signed up for a Marvel Ultimate subscription, and it's really cool. Actually.
Nice.
I really enjoy checking out these old.
It actually plays right into what you were saying before, where you left Battlegrounds because you couldn't focus on what you were doing and also be present elsewhere. Where Snap kind of gives you that opportunity because it's like a 3-minute game, and then you're.
Yeah. It's way less annoying to my wife if I'm like, hey, let me finish this game, and it's like 90 seconds later and I'm ready to walk out the house, versus, hey, let me finish this game, and it's like 14 minutes later, and I'm like, I don't know when it's going to be over. We'll see. This could be this turn, or it could be another 90 seconds.
Oh,
I don't know.
no, see,
So
with
that, yeah,
Snap, I don't even have to say, let me finish this game. I'm just finishing that game on my phone as we're walking out the door. So
there you go.
I don't know, Doc.
Yeah.
I think I'm starting to get a little hungry. How about you?
Yeah, I'm getting a little hungry too.
Broccoli, broccoli, it's time to eat your broccoli.
All right, so we are already well deep in this episode, but this has been very interesting to talk with you, Chalk. But the main obvious reason we have you here is to talk about Duels, and we have. But what we want to do is help somebody that has never been a Duels player understand what Duels is, and also how do they possibly get into it. So, how would you describe Duels to somebody that has never played the mode before?
Sure. So Duels is Hearthstone's roguelike game. It's the one in which you start off with a small constructed deck. It's 15 cards, and you only get to choose one of each card, as compared to in regular Hearthstone, where you get to choose two. And as you go through your run, similar rules to Arena, you go up to 12 wins or 3 losses, whichever one comes first. So that is the end of your run. You slowly build your deck further and further and further with first, after games, you get offered buckets, which are sets of 3 cards that you can add to your deck. So you will grow your deck. Oftentimes decks can reach 50, 60 cards sometimes later in runs if you're if that's part of your strategy. Or you also can add treasures to your deck, and there are 2 different types of treasures. There's active treasures and there's passive treasures. Passive treasures are just things that are happening in the background that sort of change the way the game goes, and those are at 2 different tiers. There's one you get after your first game. Automatically, everyone gets one, and examples of that are like play 2 random secrets at the start of the game, or start the game off with your location in play, things of that nature. So they're relatively low impact. I mean, they're high impact if you were in a standard game, of course, but not absolutely game breaking what is going on. The higher tier 2 treasures, those are the ones that really are like, this is totally crazy. Like, at the end of your turn, replay a spell that you played this turn. So you get to double your spells. It's Bran automatically for spells the whole game. Or after you destroy an enemy minion with a spell, for the entire game, get a free 2/2 skeleton. Or after you play a nature spell for the entire game, summon a 2/2 treant. Things of that nature that totally dramatically change the way you play. And those are what you need to build your decks around. And you have, I don't even know at this point, I should have looked up the number, but I believe there's about 20 heroes, something like that. And they're all different. They're based off of the same Hearthstone heroes, but they have different hero powers. Each one, you have a selection of 3 hero powers that are different from their Hearthstone standard ones. And you have a selection of 6 active treasures that can each be sort of your signature legendary card that will sort of define the path and the course that you take within the rest of your deck building. And at the beginning of your run, at the beginning of the game, when you hit go, yes, I want to start, you are offered 5 of those. I believe it's 20. I could look it up if we wanted to check, but of the full roster of cards, and you go on your adventure. That's your hero for this run. And yeah, that's I guess how Duels works. As if you can tell from the description, it is a bit of more of a Baroque mode. It's a bit more convoluted and exciting, and it's definitely more complicated. So if you find yourself bored with standard Hearthstone and the repetition, this is probably the mode for you. I believe Ridiculous Hat likes to call it his beer iPad couch mode, which is, I think, an important distinction to make with this as compared to trying to grind for high legend.
Now, you were saying you're given a treasure, but you have a choice,
Yes.
right? You
have a choice, yes.
That's all.
Yes.
So
You have a choice of 3.
all right. Well, one thing that I think is a strong barrier to entry, or at least mentally for people, is that not everyone's been playing since the beta. and not everyone has all the wild cards. They don't have these full collections. So if I've only been playing for a year or two, is Duels a mode for me, or like should I just skip it?
Totally, it's totally a mode for you. And that is a valid fear of things. You see these clips where people have all these cards that you have never, seen before, feel like you need to have the perfect deck to enter in the mode, and then you do go craft the right cards. You save up all your dust, and you enter in the mode. You spend your 150 gold, and you go 0 and 3, right? That is totally an experience that I think a lot of people have. And I think that there's an expectation that it's going to be like constructed or that it's going to be like arena. But I think that you have to go in with the expectation that it's going to be fun and wacky and wild and that you can just sort of see what you can do. So, what I would recommend for these people that have more limited collections and don't necessarily have all of the old wild cards. Well, the first thing is not all wild cards are eligible in duels. I forgot to mention that in the sort of introduction to the mode. There's a set list number of sets that are actually available for construction. Go to the wiki for the full list. It's more than half of the wild sets, but it's not all of them. It's something like 2/3 of them right now. And generally, the way it works is they make a new set available, eligible for deck creation when a new set is released at the same time. I would bet the next one would be the Witchwood is my
Oh, so they have a night.
or no, Witchwood is the last one. I don't know what I would guess. Frozen Throne is what I would
So
guess.
they have a rotation. It's a.
It's not rotation. Nothing has ever been
Oh,
pulled. They just keep on slowly adding, and I would assume that eventually that they're going to get to all wild cards, and I, they've never explained exactly why that is. My assumption is that, like I said, the mode is filled with is put together with duct tape and bubble gum, and that the cards have to be hard coded to make sure that they don't break the mode. Is my guess, but I don't have any verification or knowledge of that behind the scenes.
because well, that's good to know because I know that I have a hard time watching Snap streamers right now, and wanting to watch them
Yeah.
because they've been playing since beta, and I am not relating to what they're doing because they're playing all these cards
Sure.
and I have none of those cards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so what I would suggest is, um, first off, um, starting decks, constructed decks in duels are only 15 cards. Or they're actually 16 cards because you have that one extra signature treasure that you selected, but you are picking 15 cards from your collection to go into it. And each one you can only have one of in your starting deck. Ultimately, as you go through drafting and everything, you can have an unlimited number of cards. You could have 20 of a card if you keep on getting offered it, right? But that doesn't happen. But anyways, but so you would only need one or two cards potentially. Oftentimes with the decks being smaller, it's less likely that you would have to craft some specifically star card. And the other big thing is that in duels, legendaries aren't always the stars. It's sometimes like kind of wacky other cards that interact with the passives in a specific way. So you don't necessarily feel the need. I wouldn't feel the need that you should have to go and craft a bunch of old legendaries to be successful in duels. If you see one archetype that you like a lot and you think that you'll enjoy, for sure, go do that and go hog wild, use your dust. But I would suggest instead see what you can build. There are some deck lists out there. We'll talk about Firestone in a little bit, I think. But you can see who's been having good 12-win runs, and you can sort of see what you can build with your current collection. And I don't use that many crazy old legendaries that often. And finally, each time there's a new set in duels, each time there's a new set rotation, Croak and I will read through all 135 cards, and we'll try a lot of different, like we'll theory craft a bunch of cool, fun stuff in the first week or two. After about 3 weeks to a month, maybe five of the cards are showing up in common rotation in duels. And after a mini set, maximum two or three cards are showing up in a thing. So if you're patient, or if there hasn't been a rotation or anything in a little while, um, you might be able to get away with crafting literally just one card. You don't need that many cards. You only need 15 to start. And so I think that you can find some powerful decks that are quite cheap and quite affordable. And the final thing to say about the whole situation is you do get rewards from duels, right? So I have started I before Duels is released, I never collected all of the cards in any one set. I would always have a few random legendaries that I didn't get because I never bought enough packs or never cleared it out. Since Duels has been out, I complete everything and I did not change my pre-order or money spending at all. In fact, I spent a little less now. I do the one big pre-order beforehand, and then I don't even buy the mini set any longer, not even with gold. I just get the cards from packs in Duels because you get a free pack upon opening it every time. And just like in Arena, the break-even point, the going infinite point, is at 7 wins. At 7 wins, you are guaranteed to get 150 gold, so you get your entrance ticket back, and you get a pack, and usually you get, either a rare card or a little bit of dust or something like that. So that's the way that you can, technically keep on going forever and build your collection for free. But in reality, I find that it's a little bit less than that even. You only really need to average maybe 5 wins if you factor in all of the quests, doing your dailies, getting all that. So you can just build out your entire collection. And I find that I get a lot more dust that I then feed back in. So I mean, you do however you want to deal with your economy of things. But I've been finding that I have been building my wild collection quite effectively with the extra dust that I've been getting, and I spend a little bit less money on the game. So
Little aside here, do you ever see any cards that would never have ever seen play in standard or wild that become actually viable in duels?
I would think so, but honestly, I don't know enough about viability in standard and wild to know about that. But I do know that there are things that show up in duels uh, that I assume would never show up in standard and wild. I don't know. That's a good question that requires more Hearthstone knowledge than I can provide, unfortunately.
We'll have to do some cross examination on that with somebody that's a standard expert and a duels expert or hasn't and
Yeah, I'll think about that. I'll message you guys on Discord. That'll be a brain tickler for a little bit, and I'll follow up on that. I
if you
promise
have
you
any
on this.
feedback, you can tweet us at breadandbutter. That's this week's puzzler. What would you say there are some common mistakes that people that are just starting out with duels make?
Yeah. So thinking that your original deck is going to stay the same as you go through and expecting that, and then being like dejected about crappy buckets is like the biggest thing I would
Hold,
say.
but before you
They
go on, what are buckets?
mhm. Oh, perfect. Back buckets. So, um, after each game, you are in general after each game. It changes, and I'm not going to go through the Wikipedia page of it. You can go read the exact rules of when things show up. But in general, you get offered 3 sets of 3 cards. These are buckets, and the buckets are meant to be the thing that makes your deck grow primarily. And they are for the week before a new set release includes the new set, but it's also so it's a way to play with new cards before you open your packs. It's usually the only way in the client to do that, which is pretty cool. But they're just cards that are based off of primarily cards in your deck, but sometimes random cards. And the buckets are named. There is one bucket that is called Group Learning that's sort of like an AI generated bucket that's based off of what other people are playing, which is quite interesting. But that buckets are the cards that you are offered to build out your deck. And the buckets are imperfect. They've got random-ish cards, or they can cross-reference one another. So for example, you might get a card that will trigger both a secret bucket and a fire spell bucket for mage, or a fire spell and a frost spell bucket for mage. You have to make sort of decisions about what you want to put in your deck and what has synergies with and without your deck. And a lot of people are bad at that. It's a hard thing to do as you're going through the game to select these buckets and say, okay, this one is empirically better than this one, or this is worse. It's just an experience thing. And so I think quite a few people go into duels use their one arena ticket or their one tavern ticket and try it out, get absolutely steam floored, and then say, I'm never going back to that because this was just a clown fiesta of random stuff that I had no control over. I don't understand it. What's going on? And I think for that, and if that's you, and if that's a thing that you have experienced, I would suggest you change your perspective. So I listened to last week's episode with Dragon Rider, and it was great. It was so awesome. She's really strategic and thinking about like how the turns go and like making like the right wise decision each turn. And that's awesome. I love that thinking, but that's the like legend grind mentality. It's not the way my brain works. My brain is like, wow, look at this wacky shiny thing that just happened. Look at all those fireworks. This was cool. Oh my God, I love that. And when that happens, that's fun. And if you come into the mode with that attitude, you're gonna have a good time. You're gonna have a chill, fun time. You're gonna laugh and chuckle. If you can find yourself laughing at your losses, this is the spot for you. And what I would do if that sounds like a thing that appeals to you, start off in casual, because casual is the way you can do things for free, right? You can just, it's same exact structure. There's just no rewards at the end, and it's a free mode to play. And it's a great way to practice and learn and try out wacky stuff. And it's you can retire if you aren't getting the right treasures. You can quit and, cut your losses in your time if you didn't want to, if you're just sandboxing, trying to test something out. Totally a place to go and spend some time.
Ben Brode, if you're listening, give us casual so we can try out the wacky things.
Oh my God. Casual and hard, and snap. Oh my God. That's what I want.
And with buckets, it's always right to choose the one that has 3 Yogg Saurons, right?
Yeah. So there's one bucket that's called Why Not, and it's sometimes it's got that. Sometimes it's got 3 blooded Ichors. Sometimes it's got like Mimron's head. Sometimes it's got like 3 angry chickens or 3 what's the other one? Not Mimron. Did I already say Mimron's head? I don't know. It's got some weird stuff. Sure, pick it if you want. But real strategy about buckets is there's another one that has 3 empty buckets. There's nothing, 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 and it says no more please at the bottom of it. 99% of the time, that is the correct choice to make. It is almost always better to have no more cards in your deck, so you can get to the cool, awesome, busted stuff that is in your deck. There are strategies in which you might want to just, or you might see like, an ice block or something like that. There's literally one bucket in the whole game that has ice block in it, and so if you see that, that's pretty worth it. But in general, you want to take the one that is keeping your deck nice and.
Quick aside, and I know we're already running really late. This is great. Renathal banned, I assume.
Yes, there are a number of cards. When you go like, and there's some of them are weird cards, like Korok, the 3/5 that if it was not honorably killed, will come back. That's banned. Wildfire is banned because a bunch of the hero powers deal damage, especially this new Reno one that would be absolutely bonkers with Wildfire. So yeah, there's a number. Renathal's banned.
Are there any cards that are banned in your original deck that will show up in the buckets, or if it's banned, it's banned?
Yeah, absolutely. Lightning Bloom will show up in buckets, but you can't have it at the beginning. The other thing with Duels runs is as your decks get bigger, your health totals will get bigger. So you start your first game off with only a 16 card deck and 20 health, which is pretty quick. You can go through that game in less than 5 minutes very easily. But then later on, you're up to 40 health and you got 40 plus cards in your deck. Those games can take half an hour or longer. And so some cards would be absolutely broken in the first couple of games, like Lightning Bloom, for example. And then they really aren't a problem later in the game, and they do show.
Nice, so they factor scaling in. That's great. All right, so let's say I get past the initial shock factor of Duels and I start having some fun. How do I get better?
Yeah. So first thing is to sort of learn the passives. If you're very first base level, okay, I understand how the mode is going. I can get things through. Is learn the passives and learn how to have a flexible-ish deck that will utilize your passives. They are the powerful thing, and that's why I was saying they need to be part of the nerfing structure. The if you're hitting the right ones with the second tier, you're and if you're building a deck that will, we can sort of guide your runs. If you have a bunch of Death Rattle cards in your deck, you're very likely to get Mummy Magic at tier 2, which says your Death Rattle minion or the Death Rattle minions you play have Reborn, which is obviously very wonderful thing to have happen to you. And you can sort of make your starter deck do that. And the other thing that you can do to get better is learn how to guide your buckets. So the cards you put in your initial deck influence the buckets that are offered to you later on. Not perfectly, but you can get pretty close. If you get all of your cards in your starting deck that are in just one bucket, you will 100% of the time be offered that bucket, but eventually the algorithm will stray out after a few games. It will disappear away. But after the first couple, you can absolutely ensure that you are going to maintain the purity of your deck if that is very important to you. But the thing is, you don't want to stay too committed to that, because the thing that I was telling you about a minute ago of the game, the reason I love Duels so much is it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. The first couple of games, you have these small health totals and these small efficient decks, so it's very easy to pull off some crazy combo or have some aggro strategy where you're going to run someone's face down. But that changes entirely once you've got 30 plus cards in your deck and you're trying to get someone down from 40 health. You can't be charging them down with some secret hunter stuff and some maybe beast that may or may not stick around. So you got to sort of evolve your strategy and have some sort of flexible thing going on that will change. The other major thing that people, I think, get frustrated with in Duels and forget about and don't plan for enough is the amount of removal in this mode. These minions that you're playing are massive, they're huge, you're filling up the whole board. There is an equal amount of removal that shows up in various treasures and different classes that you wouldn't expect it. There's one card that's called the Wand of Disintegration that shows up all of the time. It's a 5 mana arcane spell that says silence and destroy all enemy minions. And so you just have to be aware that after turn 5, there is a chance that your opponent is going to have that card. And so it just things of that nature you don't really learn unless you play it a little bit. And I would suggest learning that through the casual mode. Otherwise, you can feel like it's a waste of gold. Unless you really enjoy these sort of roguelikes of getting stronger and polishing your deck. Like I was saying earlier, that crazy deck, I've been polishing that thing for like 6 weeks probably. It's been evolving. I've been swapping in one or two cards and having fun with it. And if that's the sort of thing you dig, this is the spot for you.
I do play some Slay the Spire. Uh,
Yeah, it's the Slay the Spire for
and
Hearthstone, for sure.
it's basically been a mode that was a derivative off of the solo play, right?
Yeah. So a lot of the characters are coming from the monster hunts and the dungeon runs, and I can't even remember all of them. There's four of them in total. The heist, the Dalaran heist, and the Saviors of Old Doom one. So we got Finley, we got Reno, we got Elise, and we have all of their powers translated over into Duels. And so that's the other thing. If you aren't sure if Duels is really for you, you can go back and play that solo adventure content, and it is very similar to Duels. And I did a bunch of it, quite honestly, right after they did the announcement before these new heroes were released, and I had a really good time. I forgot how much I had enjoyed those back in the day, 2-3 years
Well, you
ago
had
when
to
they
do
were
some
out.
of them, right? Because some of the unlocks used to be behind those.
Yeah. Yeah, they were behind them. So you didn't have to. You could just pre-do it. So if you had done the unlocks in the solo player, it was unlocked in this. But now that they've gotten rid of all unlocks, it doesn't really matter. But yeah.
So, I mean, you mentioned that you lose 3 or win 12, somewhere between that, like Arena.
Mhm.
Uh, is there any other ranking system for this? Is there any kind of leaderboard like we have in some other modes?
Ye- Yeah, so we've got MMR. It's displayed to you. You know what your number is, but there is no official Hearthstone leaderboard. However, there is Firestone. So I'm not affiliated with them. I'm actually a customer of them. I give them money because I feel like they have such a good product. But of the two major deck trackers out there, HS Replay and Firestone, Firestone provides significantly more support for the duels mode than HS Replay does. And even if you don't give them money, you can go onto the client. You can download the client on your computer, and you can do a full, uh, excuse me, a full test deck building exercise, and it'll show you what buckets all of the cards that you're building are coming from, and then it'll also track your 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 runs, and then there's also a leaderboards within Firestone of recorded Firestone games. So people and most of the higher MMR people are using that over HS Replay that I have seen as far as.
So where are you on that leaderboard?
Oh, I don't even know. I'm not especially good at duels. I'm okay at it. I'm fine at it, but I don't take my video game time seriously, right? I take my video game time as fun video game time, and so I mess around, and I'm not trying to grind for competition sakes. Um, my current duels MMR is like 6,400, 6,500, and I think Croaks is like 75, 8, something like that. And the highest numbers I've ever seen, there was a couple people over 10. There were a couple people over 10,000, but not very many. I think they're up in the 8 and
I
9,000.
think we're just supposed to say they're over 9,000, right?
Sure.
Uh,
don't
so what's your favorite duels run that you can remember, and why was it your favorite?
Yeah, so I linked to it, and I'm log rolling right here for my co-host Agent Croak. It is this 12 and it's not my run, it's his 12-0 Dude Paladin run. And the thing that killed me about I was watching this thing live. I was out working in my workshop, and I could not believe it. He kept on drawing. There's a uh, signature treasure for Paladin that gives it's called Men at Arms, and it gives all of your dudes for the game for the rest of the game +2/+2, the same as the quest reward, but it's just a card, and it costs four power, and it is 4 mana. It is awesome. It is so cool. But he kept on drawing it, and it was his luck was unbelievable. And the thing is, the Dude Paladin is not a very good deck in duels because there's so much removal. Leaving cards around is very hard to do in duels. So you discovered, Doc, earlier. You said you went 0-3 with it. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
reason. It's because it's not very good. Because taking ones off the board is very easy.
I'm kind of sad you said that last part because I was about to try to pimp that deck to Lore Master Eve and maybe get her into duels.
You can try it. It's fun. But that's the reason I loved it so much. I couldn't believe he went 12-0 with it. It was awesome.
All right, so are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners about duels?
No, I think you guys should try it. Get it going. Do it. Play some duels. Make it happen.
Fantastic. Well, Doc, I'm getting a little kind of full. I think it's time for some dessert.
I agree.
The time has come for this cookie.
So, Chalker, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out, and where can people find you?
All right. So as always, a shout out and thank my wife for being patient, for me being 2 minutes late, for getting the baby out for her lunch or her dinner. But also my co-host Agent Croak. Always awesome to chat with him about all our duel stuff. So everyone should go check that out. And for socials, you should follow Oops All Duels in your podcatcher of choice. And for personal stuff, just following me on YouTube and Twitch is great. I'm going to be hanging out on Discords lately. I actively I deactivated my Twitter account. I deleted my
I was
Twitter
about to
account.
mention that to you because I just went to check your Twitter account and was deleted. I was like, what's going on there?
Yeah. I removed it from my phone 2 weeks ago, and I don't miss it. And I made a commitment. I publicly said back in, I don't know, April, May, whenever the initial news came out, that if this deal went through, that I would delete my account, and I did. And so I'm done
You
on
are
Twitter.
missing. I understand. Completely understand. You're missing some great ridiculous hat content.
I'm sure I am, but you know what? He's on Discord too, and I'm also missing the truth of the matter is I'm missing a lot of content that I don't want to see also, and that Twitter actively put in front of my eyeballs to keep me engaged, and I have a suspicion that is going to increase in the near future, and I need to protect my my.
Fair enough. I've actively been trying to invite you to some of the Discords lately to get you kind of spread out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm an awkward, weird guy. I'm trying to learn my way around things, and also my time frame is so different from everyone. So we're learning. We're figuring it out.
I'm an
I appreciate
awkward,
it.
weird guy, said the guy that does a podcast and does YouTube content about a video game, says to other awkward
Exactly.
people that make Twitter content
Yeah.
and Hearthstone content about a video game.
Exactly.
And we were saying this to the people that are listening to us talk about a video game in a medium called a podcast.
You're right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not lying.
And remember, oops is spelled with 3 O's.
there. 3 O's.
How about you, Doc? Where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Doc McButt and here.
And you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Tito Santana HS. And you can email our show at breadandbutterhs@gmail.com. Doc, I hope you've been checking that. And if you would like to join our Discord, we have a Discord. Just let us know. We'll give you the link. You can ask us on Twitter. You can email us. It's relatively small right now, but we'd welcome you there. And most of our guests seem to hang out there. We like it, so come join us. Chucker, is anybody? I know you already thanked your wife, but is there anybody else you'd like to thank?
Croak, man. I my wife and Croak are the two I called out earlier, and Just a Guy's so fun.
Yes.
I appreciate him getting me into this whole network with you guys. I appreciate that. And obviously Hat for helping, and all the guys. I don't want it to turn into an Oscar thing, and I'm sure my wife is waiting for me. I'm 1,000% sure of that. So.
Sorry for taking up so much of your time, but thank you so much for being on the show. It means a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks. And seriously, Doc, message me about your schedule, and then we'll talk about the text later. Okay?
And
Yes,
Doc,
sir.
you couldn't make it through an entire episode without at least one motorcycle going through your. That should be their
Yeah.
last motorcycle, because Doc, like we said, we're not gonna have an episode next week. Doc is moving. He will not have internet until sometime in early November. So please be patient with us. We have a great guest lined up for our next episode. But Doc, is there anybody you'd like to thank this week?
Chalker, you, my partner and her friends for helping me move all my stuff out of my house. Yeah, moving sucks. It's great to have people to help you move.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And if you noticed on the last week that there was a little bit of audio sync issues, it's going to happen. We're learning. We're picking it up. Doc's planning on fixing it, but I don't know. Maybe moving is a little more important than fixing a podcast that a couple dozen people listen to. So we're working on it, and I appreciate everything. Doc has to deal with me saying, hey, Doc, did you happen to notice that this thing is a little like this? And then 3 other people mentioned it to him. So I appreciate you, Doc. I really do. I also want to thank Chalker, who, besides being on this podcast, is also going to be on a future episode of Watch This. We've recorded the episode. It just needs to be edited by Just a Guy. Just a Guy, you have nothing else going on. Why isn't that done yet? I'm just asking. I'm just kidding. Just a Guy has a lot going on. And I want to thank Edel for, I did a coaching tonight. It was a little unorthodox. Normally you coach and you say, hey, let's work on playing Hearthstone or work on this skill. We worked on deck building, which I don't know if we had an episode about this a couple weeks ago, but we focused a little bit more on that. And tonight we worked on how to beat Coin Rogue, because I've seen way too many Coin Rogues lately. And obviously the answer is Quest Priest. And we made kind of our own version of Quest Priest that can deal with it. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to do all that well with the imp lock. So we're still a work in progress. But Doc, Chalker, that's the end of the show. I think we're toast.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.